One of the most under the radar NBA teams that I'm fascinated to watch this year is the Portland Trail Blazers. And the reason being, I think they were sneaky, but like actually pretty decent the second half of last year. And now they're making some moves to extend their young pieces. They got some of the guys who were kind of in the way out of the way, like DeAndre Ayton and some of these other players. The return of Damian Lillard is obviously a morale boost. Doesn't affect them this year in terms of on the court play. Maybe in the future that will be helpful. I like the addition of Jrue Holiday as a veteran leader for this team. I don't think they're going to be great, and they play in a loaded Western Conference. So again, you still have to temper your expectations. This is still probably, for the most part, another developmental year for the Blazers. But I like the offseason addition of Yang Hansen. He's a guy who's got a ton of potential. I think their center group with Klingon and Hansen could be really, really interesting. You got two seriously promising young center options there. And obviously, I mean, they just extended Shaedon Sharpe and Toumani Camara yesterday. 4-year deals for both of them, $90 million and $82 million a piece. I mean, honestly, they're locking down some of their young guys. They're building out their core. I feel like they've made some nice additions and some good draft picks over the last couple of years. This team is starting to come together in a pretty interesting way, and they're very under the radar right now. But I actually think they're going to be pretty good. If you look at their roster, it's not a jump off the page amazing roster. Denny Avdia is a good player. Toumani Camara is a very good player. I think will be in the Defensive Player of the Year race this year. Honestly, I think Avdia could be an all-star this year as well. Donovan Klingon, a lot of potential there, especially with his size and potential stretch big ability as well. Jeremy Grant's still a solid role player. He's probably a bit overpaid, but 32 mil isn't as insane as it felt a couple of years ago. Still a lot of money. Jrue Holiday, same story. Is he probably being paid too much at this point in his career? Sure, but hopefully those guys can be veteran leaders for this team. Scoot Henderson tore his, I think, hamstring. He's out for a while, but he'll probably only miss another month or so. Yang Hansen has some like Jokic-esque passing and touch stuff. I'm not saying he's going to be Nikola Jokic, but he's really interesting at his size with some of the skill set stuff that he looks to have. Dame isn't going to play this year, so that's probably not going to impact the roster much, but I like Shaedon Sharpe. Matisse Thybulle's never been able to shoot the three, so that's questionable. I don't think Rob Williams is going to play a huge role in this team. He's probably a trade piece at some point this year. Maybe Chris Murray has a decent role. I don't know. But I do look at this roster, and I think they have the pieces to be interesting. I mean, if you look at last year, they were absolutely terrible to start the year. 13-28 in their first 41 games. That's half the season. And then the second half of the season, they were 23-18. Huge difference there. They really started to figure things out. At this point in the year, I was pretty much, they're going to fire Chauncey Billups and clean house in the front office, and everything's going to change, and it's going to be a reset. And then all of a sudden, they actually were like a pretty good team for the rest of the year, and they had some good wins too, honestly. So do deserve a lot of credit for being competitive and consistent in the second half of the year. And I think it's given you some building blocks for this team to grow off of. I mean, Toumani Camara was top 10 in Defensive Player of the Year last year, is one of the more valuable, I think, 3-and-D wings in the entire league with how elite he is defensively and how solid of a shooter he is. Jeremy Grant, I think, is a overlooked player at this point in his career. He's certainly not special, but he's a decent role player who I think will fit very well in this team. Denny Avdia was really solid last year, averaged 17, 7, and 4, and did so on decent efficiency himself. Could easily take even a little bit more of an offensive jump this year. Obviously, with Shaedon Sharpe, he's a guy where the offensive jump is going to have to come more in the form of that shooting, because he's never been a high-level three-point shooter, and it seems like it's gotten worse as the volume has gone up. You're going to need, if he's going to be one of your long-term centerpieces offensively, you're going to need that to be a little bit more consistent. That being said, from when he's attacking the rim, he's one of the more electric players in the league athletically, an extremely talented finisher, and a guy who has a lot of offensive potential if he can figure out some of the efficiency stuff. I'm just a little worried there's a little too much Jalen Green there. You know what I mean? That's kind of my concern. Scoot Henderson legitimately had a pretty solid bounce back year. Felt like a much better second year for him than his rookie year, and had some legitimately strong moments. That being said, the efficiency is still a little questionable. You'd like to see him be more efficient around the rim with the style of play that he has. Matisse Thybulle did not play much last year, but I mean, someone who did not shoot the three ball well for large portions of his career, shot 44% last year. If he's a consistent three-point shooter, that would be massive. Donovan Klingon is really interesting to me because I actually think he's going to shoot threes. Like, both him and Yang Hansen are legitimately really interesting because they're going to shoot some threes. Yang Hansen especially. But this Hansen-Klingon duo, it's very few teams in the league that have multiple 7-foot-plus bigs. And I don't know if there are any that have multiple 7-2 plus or 7-1, 7-2 bigs that can shoot the three ball. I mean, and also with Yang Hansen's skill set, you might even be able to play those guys together and do some double big, interesting lineup stuff with those two that could really be very tough for teams to match up against. Chris Murray has shot the absolute lights out of the ball in the preseason. I'm hoping that he's going to get a little more of an opportunity to be a consistent rotation guy on this team as well. And I mean, they need him to be. This roster's like pretty good though. I mean, I know they don't have that superstar or even that really star caliber player, and I think that's what they're going to miss to really push them over the top this year, unless somebody develops into a much more important offensive role, be that Denny Avdia, be that Shaden Sharp. One of those guys is going to have to take a big step forward. It's probably going to have to be Shaden Sharp if it's going to be anybody. But I'm really interested by their roster. I really am. And they have pretty much all their assets as well. I mean, their first round pick is lottery protected for the next 3 years. And then if it doesn't convey in the next 3 years, they will send a second to Chicago instead. My thought is they'll probably be a lottery team again this year. The odds of them actually being a top 8 team in the West are very, very low. But I don't know. It's possible. They do have an unprotected, I think, Orlando first round pick here in a couple of years. Now, Orlando's going to be pretty good, but they do have an extra unprotected pick. So they have a little bit of extra draft assets, some extra second round picks as well. Like, they're not in a terrible spot overall in terms of assets. They have a decent amount of draft assets. They have a good amount of cap space, payroll options now. Like, this is an interesting team that I think has the potential to now long term. I don't believe this is updated with the extension as of yet for Kamara or Shaden Sharp. They do need to make sure that they update this payroll page with those new extensions, but those happened yesterday, so Fanspo obviously they can cut them a break. But they're a team that I think actually is in a really interesting spot financially. They have a lot of flexibility, and obviously they're looking for that star, and I think the hope is that Scoot Henderson comes back and develops into that player. I'm not confident that's going to happen. Shaden Sharp, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I'm still not super confident there. I feel like they're missing that one piece that they really need to make the engine go as a whole for this roster. But they're really interesting to me. I think they're going to be competitive defensively, like really competitive defensively. Some of the lineups they can put out there with Kamara, Avdia, Klingon, and just some of the defensive versatility that this team can have. Jeremy Grant can still be a solid defender as well when he wants to, and he's putting that effort out there. Obviously, Drew Holiday is one of the best defensive guards we've ever seen. Like, this team might be a very, very, very good defensive team and a decent offensive team. And if they're that, they're going to be a lot better than people are giving them credit for. And I think in a Western Conference that is admittedly pretty loaded, and we can go ahead and take a look at the Western Conference again and just talk about how many teams realistically the Trailblazers are actually going to be better than this year. There's a good chance a couple teams are going to fall off and slip up. It always happens. There's going to be one or two teams that are going to be injured and things are going to be bad. But at the same time, when you look at the West, how many of these teams do we actually think they're going to be better than this year? Utah, Sacramento, maybe Memphis if Memphis is super injured like they are. And then probably one or two more teams are going to fall off. Maybe Phoenix is going to struggle. We really don't know what to expect from them yet with the amount of pieces that they lost, obviously. But their roster looks at least more cohesive than last year. It seems like they at least like each other. I mean, look, there'll always be that one or two team that's going to slip up that we're not expecting to slip up, whether it be for injuries or some other reason. But the path to a play-in spot, even for the Trailblazers this year, still feels challenging. But I also think that probably is the goal. If you're a Trailblazers fan, let me know in the comments, what's y'all's goal for the season? Because I think this team is being very slept on. I actually think they might be pretty good, and I'm interested to watch them play because I think they have some really intriguing young pieces with Sharp, Klingon, Hansen, Scoot, guys like that that could really create a very fun to watch, talented and competitive roster on a night-to-night basis that people aren't really expecting. So give the Trailblazers some credit. They might be a lot better than you think. I hope y'all did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more NBA content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.